This video is sponsored by Rewarded View. Are you tired of just scrolling through your phone without making any profit from it? Well, Rewarded View is for you. If you have an Android phone, then head over to rewarded-views.prima.ai, download the app, and start earning today. All you have to do is create your account, watch videos, and get paid for each and every video that you watch. So, what are you waiting for today? Download Rewarded Views and earn the smart way.
Hey guys, how y'all doing? How's your day going? And if you're just starting, how's your night? Hope you had or having an amazing and beautiful day today. So I'm starting a new series. This series is Everything Python. It's going to delve deep into every single branch there is in Python, which is very, very broad because Python goes from web to data science to data scraping to even app development to web development. Like Python has it all. So we're going to be touching every single aspect of Python, but obviously before we can do that, you need to understand the basic concept of Python. So this is going to cover everything basic and introductory of Python. So it's not going to be as detailed as you expect other ones when we're focusing on today, we're focusing on control structures and all those ones. So if you run a video like that, you can go back and check the previous videos on my channel, or you can let me know if you would like me to create a brand new updated version of it. But this is kind of like to just jog your memory. So if you're watching this video, it's assumed that you have a general idea of Python or you've come across Python once upon a time. Whatever the case may be, let's jump right in. So since it's not your first time working Python, I will assume you already have Python installed. But if you don't, you can check a video of mine. I would link it somewhere on the screen. You can go and check that how to download Python. I'll leave all the links in the description also for you. And once you have Python installed, you can now create your Python file. Obviously, as we already know, when you're saving a Python file, you use the extension .py to let the system know that is a Python file running. So we're going to write our very first code on Python, which is just a simple print statement. What the print statement does, it displays or it just is used to just display a message on the screen. So now we're just going to write the signature message that every single developer writes, hello world. And we're going to save that. So I'm using an ID, so I can simply run it like this. But let me open up my terminal. So if you were able to run yours on your command prompt, if you want to run your code, you're going to say Python or Python 3. Sorry, I want to run Django. Python main.py, and it's going to just display the simple command we gave it. Now in Python, we have something called, or in code in general, we have something called comments. Comments are kind of like sections that you do not want to see, just kind of like to help you document your code so you can know what is happening. For example, if you just want to have a one line comment, you can just say hash, I'm going to say greeting the users. So the main idea of this comment, not well, the main idea of this comment is that when we run it, it's not going to be shown. So it's still just going to be a hello world. This part of the code is going to be hidden. Another form of comment is multi-line comment where you just use three of these. You can either use the single quotation or the double quotation. And anything you put in here, this is a comment, would not be visible to the normal users. So let's touch on input because we want to work with a dynamic site. And if you want to work, sorry, dynamic program, and if you want a dynamic program, you need to be able to interact with users. So the way of doing this is to use the input function. So it's going to look something like this: input, and then you're going to have a prompt. So your prompt is just going to be saying, okay, this is what we're trying to collect from user. So maybe we can just tell user to give us a name. To make it look neat, always make sure you use this column and leave a space so that the user's input will not be clashing with the prompt you gave. Now we don't just want the inputs, because if we just collect the inputs now like this, we'll not really be able to use it to do anything. So we need to be able to fetch that input that we're receiving from the user, and that's to do that we need to save it into a variable. A variable, you can just think of variable as a storage box where you hold data for you to access down the line. And in Python, unlike C plus plus and all the other ones, when you are declaring the variable, you don't need to declare the data type for the variable. You just give the variable a name. So I'm just going to say name is equal to input. Now when the user um gives us their name, it's going to be saved in this box called name, and throughout the whole code we can now access name. So if you want to access it, we're now going to use print. So I'm going to be using a formatted string here. Formatted string basically allows us to call variables within our line of code without having to use the whole plus and all those ones. It just makes coding simpler. So the old way of doing it was usually just have your curly brace empty there. At the end of your code, you now have your dot format. Now all you just have is your F, and you just put your column, and now you're just going to keep writing as you would any normal string. So just say good morning. The only difference now is that when we want to call a variable, you use your curly brace, and within the curly brace, you're now going to call the variable name. So it's now going to say, okay, hello world, give us your name, praise, and going to say good morning, praise. Okay, what should we touch on next? Typecasting. So typecasting is generally there are two types of typecasting: implicit and explicit. Implicit is the one that is done automatically by Python, while explicit is the one you do by yourself, which is the main one I'm going to be focusing on now. So we're going to now be seeing a lot of this when we come into working with digits. For example, floats and integers. Those are two data types. Integers are whole numbers, floats are decimal numbers. So let's say we have a variable a, and a is an integer. If we are to print a, we're just going to get 5. Now what if we now want to print a as a float? You can cast it, we can either cast it here or we're printing it, but let's cast it into a new variable b. I'm going to say b is equals to, now casting in Python is very easy. You will define the new variable you want to cast it, so in this case it's a float, and within that parenthesis you now call the variable that you want to get casted and you save it and we'll run it. Now is a float 5.0. You can also do this for string. String is going to be an str, integer is going to be an int. If you run it, it's going to be 5. So now you're like, oh, but this is still looks like an integer. So the way you now see it is, let's do b plus 2. So ideally if this was still an integer, we're going to get 7, but now we're going to get 52. Okay, let me put this 2 as a string also. There. Okay, I'm just trying to quickly think of some of the intro things that everyone must know. So in Python, we Python is very um it uses indentations to define code blocks, and the time when you see more of this is when you're working with functions. So that is now the question: what is a function? A function is just basically a reusable set of code. Let's say, for example, I'm writing a program where, when maybe, okay, let's say for now in a month we have Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, that needs to be repeated 4 times. If we're to define that month, let's say continuously want to print the weeks, or sorry, you use of manually on your own typing all those things. To avoid your code being bulky, you need to make your code modular. So what you do is you define a function that holds that set of instruction you want to be executed continuously, and then you just call it. So when you're defining a function in Python, you use the def um keyword, and then you're not going to define your function name. Let's create a function to add two numbers. Okay, let's do greet first. let's do a function to greet people. Then you're now going to have your column, and within this email we are going to now pass your instructions. We're just going to say print, we want it to greet, good morning. I kind of make using formatted strings a habit. You don't have to. So even if I'm just working with full strings, I tend to use formatted strings a lot because I would never know when I would want to add or call a variable within it. It's just personal preference. So good morning, save that. So now if we were to run this, nothing is going to happen. Why? Because the function has been created, but the function has not been called. So down the line, we have many other lines of code here. We now want to call the greet function. So we're going to take to attempt. I don't know if this terminal is going to pick up on it. If you call the greet without the parentheses, okay, this terminal, oh, let me see if I can get, okay, this doesn't work like visual code. It doesn't give me the ability to use. Okay, I wanted to use my command prompt. So if you run greet without the parentheses, it usually points to the location. But if you now run it with the parentheses, it's now going to actually call the main function. Now we now want to give pass arguments into our function. So there are different types of arguments you can pass. You can just pass a single argument which we are going to be doing here. But now, Julian, we're now going to start working with args and quags. I have videos where I've talked on those. um, we have keyword arguments. If you're using quags, that is when you pass keep and value pair. It just args and quags just basically allows you to pass in an unlimited amount of variable. Like for example, now this name that I'm using, I can only pass collect just one name. But what if I wanted to collect a list of names? You know what, we're going to do that. We're going to do that. Um but first let's do this. So we're going to have parentheses, we're going to have name. So we're going to say a is going to be equals to input. I want to say give us your name. Then we're now going to pass a into here, because if we don't pass a, it will, okay, let me not put a yet, it's going to give us an error if you run it without actually getting a, see, while saying that when you're passing your prompt you need to add a symbol, just ignore it. It's going to say missing one required positional argument. So since we asked for a variable here, we need to make sure we're passing a variable here. If we ask for two variables, we need to make sure we're passing two variables, unless when you now define like a default variable or something like that. So let's just clean this up and then let's pass a here. I don't know, put it again. Give us your name, and it's going to greet me. But what if I have like a list of people that I want to greet? That's when the args and the quacks come in. We're going to be using args. Args says as list, quack says as dictionaries. We're going to touch all of those shortly. Don't run ahead of yourself. If we want to define an arg, we use one asterisk before the variable name. If we want to do two quags, we use two asterisks. But we're just using args. Then the attempts, now when we're now handling terms, it's now going to be a different approach. We're going to now treat this as a list. I'll show you why firstly. But before then, let me just create my list here. That's not start thinking of names. Let's just use all my names. We'll say, oh, strings must always be in inverted comma. Just in case you didn't know that. Praise Chibudon Obasi. So I just want to quickly show you why you now have to start handling this as a list. If we were to treat this just as a normal variable, this is what our output is going to look like. Disgusting. So if we're now treating as a list, we're now going to use some control statements. So control statements, we have conditionals and loops. But I have videos where I've touched on those in depthly. So if you still want me to do another video, that I would. And as we work on projects, we're going to be touching on it. Like I say, this is a more practical themed um course, because most of the videos you watch is always like once you have done with it, what next? So my goal is that at the end of this you have worked on so many projects that you can confidently beat your chest and say, okay, I want to go and apply for a Python job. So this intro is just briefing. If you want in depth, you can just always let me know and I'll be sure to do so. So we're going to say for I can be anything. I just tends to be what almost all developers use. But for I, let's make this one's names here. So let's say for name in names, we're now going to indent here and we're now going to print name, not names. If we print names, we're printing this list. But we're saying for every name that is inside this list. So for every single element, this that is inside names, pick the first one, pass it here, jump to the next one, pass there, and continue that until you reach the very last one, and then end that loop. That is basically what we're saying. So if we save this, it's now supposed to greet each user one by one. Okay. Okay, I don't know how I was blindsided by that. I picked up on what the error was. So we just, instead of passing it as a list, let's just pass each of the individual elements directly into the greet function. So now if we run it, yes, it should work as expected. Um let's touch on exception handling. So exceptions are kind of like, to exception handling is just basically handle runtime errors. So usually sometimes, like if you remember, when, let's go back to where we had, okay, let me, I'm trying to but okay, let's create a new function here. Let's say def add, and we want to add a and b, and we just want to print a plus b. So ideally, when we're receiving an input from the user, we would hope that the user is going to be wise and give us a is going to be equals input, enter a number. So we would hope that the user can read and hope that the user gives us um, a number. But what would now happen if we now actually run this format and the user gives us one number, one string? So we're going to call our add function, and we're going to just pass add a and b, and we're going to run it. So for the a, we're going to put um oh wait, I haven't passed both of these things as strings, so let me turn b into an int. Okay, I think I chose a bad example. Let me turn b into an int, because input saves all values it gets as strings. So that is a very bad example. But let's just do this. So the me, I'm intentionally raising an error. So even if this was wise and they actually passed two numbers, it's still going to raise an error. That is by the way. This is the error I want to catch. I want to show you how we can handle an error. So if you have a program and your user is seeing all these things, it's not like appealing, firstly, and secondly, sometimes they would pick out lines of your code and you would, especially once you start working with sensitive details, you would want to prevent that. That is when you'd use exception handling. So the way we can do this, we're just going to do a simple one. I want to start working with more complex stuff to go. So we're going to first say try. So try is just where you pass the code you want to try. So we're going to try add a plus b. Then we're now going to say except. So now in the except, you can pick specific errors or you can just catch every single error. But now, well, let's pick except type error, and you can continue passing as many except, depending on what error you want to catch. So we're going to accept type error. This type error is now where you handle it. So you can either handle this by passing a message and just say print maybe an error code. You just pass an error code. So those disgusting display is no longer showing. Or you can you can take it a step further and just typecast by first saying a, since also we already know where the error is coming from, so it'll be easier. So we'll just say a is going to be int a, and then we're now going to try add a plus b again, and we will run it. So this is just a very basic stuff. When we start working with more complex projects, you're going to see where we start using it more often. What else? I'm just trying to run through like everything we need to run. So there, under this exception handling, there's something called the finally block. Everything within this finally is going to run whether or not an error occurs. So you'd usually use it at the ending of your program. So you can say finally, um what we pass, let's just print. Why did I use capital letter? So let's just print done. So whether an error is got in or not, at the end of your program is going to print done. And at the same time, we have something called raise. So let's say, for example, now let me just call the raise block. So for example, when you're working in your projects, there are certain things that technically it's not an error. For example, if we say add 2 plus 1 and both of them are integers, technically it's not an error. So let's do this. I'm just going to get rid of this. Let's actually collect an integer as we were supposed to. Um, so now after this try block, no error is going to occur. But what if we say we don't want to accept one? We don't want to allow users add one. So we're not going to use conditional statements. So this is part of the control statement, but instead of loops now we're using conditionals. So we're going to say if, let's use it for a is equal to 1. So equal to in Python is double equal. You just use one equal, that is assignment. So if a equals to 1 or b equals to 1, raise. So we can now raise any error. Then we'll not handle the error also, because we obviously still don't want our code to crash. So we're going to say um we're going to say except. So let's just catch all errors, and we'll just print an error code. Right, let's try that. So let's pass one of them as an error code. So are you understanding it? Once again, if you have any questions, all my socials will be linked below. Feel free to stop by and ask me any question you have, or leave it in the comments. I'll be sure to answer. Um all right, so let's work on return values for functions. I should have kept that add function. Let's define it again. Def add a b. So now the last one we did, we just printed out a plus b. But what if we are working in a function where we want to get that value from a plus b and reuse it somewhere else? So let's say, for example, whatever we get from adding this thing, we want to multiply it by 3. I don't know. So if we are just doing that way we did for, we cannot, that one just displays, think of that one as more static. If we want to be able to get the value to re-implement in our program, we use something called return. So what we now want to return is a, see they even showed it to my, okay, a plus b. So it's not kind of like saying you are creating a new variable that whatever value is passed there cannot be saved into a variable. You now want to, now like when you're calling it, we now want to call it into a variable. I don't know. When you define a variable, you just call it the exact same way you would have before using the variable. You just say add, let's make this an int here. Let's just catch the error here. Int and int. When pop question, why did I do the int like this instead of just doing it's like this. Let me see your answers in the comment section below. Okay, so we want to add 2 and 4. I thought I just typed 2 and 3, I guess. And yeah, we now want to be able to now use this do for something else. So let's now print. We're going to say do times multiplication is asterisk 3. So let's run our program now. So it allows us to use do whatever value is raised here as an individual variable on its own. So is there anything I've not yet touched? Let's go into list. To define a list in Python, you use a square brace. So there are multiple types of data structures in Python. You have list, you have tuples. List and tuples. So some of the main data types we have list and tuples. List and tuples are practically the same thing, just that lists are mutable and tuples are immutable. Basically, what I'm saying is that in list you can edit list, you can modify list, right? Tuples once it's defined is defined. Lists are called with the square brace, while tuples are called with the um what do you call it, parentheses. Then you have dictionaries, which are key value pairs defined with curly braces, same as sets, but sets are not key value pairs. You did sets in like high school, you should remember what sets are. Then which other one is important? Um, yeah, I think those are like the main ones. Dictionary, set, list, tuples. Those are the main ones. Nothing else is coming to mind, honestly. So, like I said, defining a list, you use a square brace. 4, 5, 6. So that's my list. So let's just print the list. Print num. Okay. Now there are certain actions that can be carried out on a list. We're not going to obviously go that deep into it. I have videos where I did that. You can just head over to my page and just find everything you're looking for. But we'll just run through a few that I feel you should remember. So now that we've printed, what if we want to print a very specific thing? So that's when I come to the whole topic of indexing. In Python and most programming languages, your index starts at 0. So that's going to be the position where this one is currently is on 0. So you now continue 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So if I want to print number 2, I'm going to access the index at 1. So if you're not going to access that, you now say num square brace 1. So when you now run it, it's going to now print out that value number 2. If you want to add to a list, you append to it. So you call the name num. Let's just do this before we print. Let me just clean this off. So we'll say num. So there are more ways you can insert if you want to do at a specific index. Okay, let's just do all those. Num dot append, and then you just put in the value you want to append, and this will just place it at the ending. So let's just say 10. If you run it, it's going to have 10 at the ending. Then in the insert num dot insert, so you're first going to put the index where you want it at. So let's just put it at number 1. So that'll be the second value. And second is now going to be what you want to insert there. Let's do 10 again. There. I think there should be another one for adding, but those are like the two main ones. Append, put at the ending, insert, put at specific index. Now if you want to remove is when you have a specific value you want to remove. Let's remove 3. So there it removes 3. Then I think, does it support pop? Can't remember. Let's try. Num dot pop. Yeah. So pop is supposed to just remove the last value, which in this case is 6. Yeah. Then if you want to, you can, I think you can clear, if you want to just turn it into an empty string. It's about to rain, so let me just close my window. Okay. And if you want to modify an element, so here we have okay, at index 1 we have the value 2. So what if we want to change that, we'll just say num square brace 1 is now going to be equal to 10. Okay, so I feel like that covers a reasonable amount. um Now let's create a new list based on functions. So we'll do using an inline function. Is kind of like a lambda function. So we'll just say, let's say we want to create a function that has squares of a certain range of number. So just say squares is going to be equals to, we're now going to say x, which is the value that we have, kind of like the way we had I in when we're talking about 4. So if you want to do raised to the power of, which what squares I is exponential 2. So raised power of 2 for x in, we're going to use the range function. So for x in range, I maybe want to do for the first like 20 numbers, and we can now print. Nice, right? Okay, and do we need to touch on tuples? All the operations are kind of like the same ones. Just all this append, remove, you cannot do that because, like I said, it's immutable. You cannot change it, you cannot modify it. Then let's just quickly brief on sets. To be honest, I've never in my life had to work with sets. So let's say we have norm. So you can't like know the rules of sets. You cannot have, what are the rules of sets? Maybe on your own, just gadget. I don't think I'm in a position where I'm ready to remind you what the rules of sets are. But I think every element in sets have to be unique. Let's test that. Let's just say range num. Yeah, every element in sets have to be unique. So either ways, if you want to add to sets, if you want to add to a set, you just say num dot add, and you have the value you want to add. Yeah, so this will add 6. Then likewise, if you want to remove, you just use discard, and let's do this for 2. Alright, so now you have like some of the basic set operations. So let's just create our second set here. Let's just call this one B, and let's just make these even numbers: 2, 4, 6. I think that should be okay. Now we have union of the set. Union is just when you merge a set together. So any number that occurs in both of them will just be written once. So like the way you have the 2 and 4, they'll just make an appearance once. Alright, so if we're doing the union of these two sets, we're going to say print. So we'll say, do we call the first set? Num dot union Then in our parentheses, we're going to have the second set. So that is it here. Then likewise, if I do intersection I think will only show what the two of them have in common. So I think this should give us 2 and 4. Yes, I still remember my mathematics. Then difference. I think difference will show. So since we're doing norm dot difference, will show things that are in norm that are not in B, and we can switch it or the other way around. Let's see. Yeah, it will show things that are in norm that are not in B. Then we do B difference dot norm. It will just give us 6 because 6 is the only thing. So obviously there's still so many more. So you can just Google. I think maybe I'll just create a place where you guys can go and view and access all those things. Yeah. And yeah, let's talk about dictionaries. So those dictionaries are key value pairs. You can just think of it the way you'd have your normal dictionary. So let's just say, for example, person. When you're searching for something in a dictionary, you have the key, which is the word you're looking for, and you have your value, which is the description of that word. So when you find a dictionary, you find it inside a parenthesis. Then within that parenthesis, you have define a key, which will be something like the name, and then the value, which is now going to be like what is the person's name, phrase. Then you can now have maybe age, and then you can now have how old the person is. No. Then you can have as many other things as you desire. Then if you want to access it, you can now decide to either print the whole thing, which why do that, or you can call a specific key. You can print a call a specific value by the key. So let's say for example, want to get the name. Voila. So yeah, if you want to delete an individual key, you can do so by just the way you call the way you want to print, but use delete, then the name of the dictionary, and then the value you want to delete. So now that we're trying to call name, it's going to give us an error because name doesn't exist anymore. If you want to add something new, you just call it like this. Let's add gender, and we'll just equate the value to what we want to put in there. And now let's just print the whole dictionary. And now we have gender in it. So if you want to print out just all the whole keys that you have available, you just do person dot keys and parentheses. It will show you all the keys that are available. Likewise, if you want to get all your values, and also you can do if you want to get all your items. All right. So yeah, I think this should give you a like it should help jog your memory of some of the basics of things that are relating to Python. And yeah, if you maybe should we in the next video, I'll create a new video where we work on exercises to actually help you implement it. So the way the video is going to go, we'll give you something to do, and then I would do my own take on it. So I would leave the video at the end card or somewhere so you can see it, or everything will just be inside a playlist. Anyways, have a nice rest of the day. Bye, guys.